So let's get into today's topic. I know we want to save lots of time for that. So we're doing a memory match game, which has what kind of elements to it? I know we had like grids and all that kind of
I will
stuff.
get into that. I will
Okay, let's
get
do
into
it.
that. I've got. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Memory
Good. So
flipper.
yeah. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to do the run through on the outline, the overview of the game, and what's in it, basically what we're going to try to achieve. And then I will show you just where the code lives, sort of like we did last time. And then if we have time, maybe we'll get into a quick example of making an individual card and showing some flipping code. So first of all, what's a memory flipper? I couldn't come up with a good name. Maybe somebody knows what the genre name is for this, but in a sense, what this is a memory game where the goal of the game, this implementation, is to, within a fixed period of time, locate all of the matching cards on the board and click them in sequence. So imagine, if you will, that you have identified the location of two matching cards, but they are flipped over, and I'll show you the game in a moment. You click them, and at that point, what should happen is those two cards will go away, and you'll get a point. Your goal here is to beat the clock and to find all of the cards that match. The attributes of this game are that the game board is a grid, n by m, meaning 3 by 4, 6 by 5, whatever it may be. It needs to equal an even number of cards, and the reason is because each card that we have will use an image for those cards, and those images will be used twice and only twice, so that we have two matching cards. So if you consider that, then because we're going to have an even number of matching cards, we have to have an even number of total cards. As I said previously, tapping a card flips it over, and I'll explain what I mean when I say flip. After you have flipped over two cards, the game should compare those two cards somehow and determine if they are in fact matching cards, and then remove those two cards from the board and give you a point, or flip them back over and let you continue playing. So before we go on anymore, why don't I just demonstrate this instead of talking to it. So here I've got, it's worth noting too that people who want to download the game immediately after this show, we have a fully functional version of the game, in that you can run it in the simulator and run one game session. You can't restart the game. It doesn't have any menus. It doesn't have any sounds. Actually, it may even have sounds. I believe I've attached sounds. But it doesn't have the code that it needs to detect that you have won or lost the game and then allow you to restart. So if I start the game, we get a countdown timer, and I've given us 60 seconds. If we click, the card will flip over. I click again. Those two cards don't match, so it flipped them over. Okay, we just saw a pair, so now if I click a pair, gone. Cherry, lemon, 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 and I won't continue playing. But that's the essence of what we're doing. So some of the things that I want to cover, and I believe I'll cover them all. I mean, unless people write back and say, no, you don't need to talk about that. Things that are used in this game: transitions and timers. Transitions primarily used to give the effect of flipping, and then timers to handle things like hiding the card after a period of time, doing the flip after a period of time. I'll go into specifics on different ways to give the flipping visual effect. I've got 3 different techniques. Well, really only 2. If you really want to use the word flipping, you be the judge. Another topic is card matching logic, and how the simplest way to detect whether or not 2 cards match. Grid layouts, people want to do this all the time, so I'll give a quick tutorial on how to calculate a grid and position it in the center of the screen. A quick touch, no pun intended, on touch inputs. And as I said here, not necessarily in this order. Um, in this game, I did not need to use too much of the SSK goodness stuff, but some of the things I am still using are the globals that I introduced in our last game, and some helper functions. And then one major change this time is last time we manually coded up our rendering layers. For this game and in the future, I will never do that again unless I need to, because SSK provides a one-liner, a piece of code, a utility to generate an arbitrarily complex layering system, and it's quite straightforward. It's got debug output that tells you what is occurring, and so I'll show you how to use that. Again, in this game, we're going to use events to communicate between the cards and the game logic and the sound logic so that these things can be somewhat separated and more modularized. We'll talk about modules and specifically reusing modules from our last game. And then at the very end, I will package this up in Composer as we did last time to give you a complete game experience with the splash screen, a main menu, the play GUI, which is where the game itself is played, and then a win and lose overlay for the two possible cases, and options, of course, to turn on or off your sounds.
So I have a quick question for you.
Finally, some screenshots. Certainly.
So you had mentioned earlier that people would be able to download the code for this game. Is that going to be is it going to be as of this first session, or are you going to wait until later?
Absolutely. Yes, I will provide you a link,
yeah,
and I'll commit it today to the GitHub.
Okay.
But it's going to live in the same place as the other game. So if people recall from our last discussion, there was I have a GitHub repository called Corona Geek, and within that there is a Hangouts folder, and under that a folder called I Can Make That. And we already have under I Can Make That Zigzag Boom and all of the code for that. Now there is another folder called Memory Flipper, or there will be at the end of the show when I commit it. And you'll be able to either go directly to that folder, or you'll be able to download the zip, which I will also provide.